I'm Yolande Porier from Oracle Technology Network, and I'm here today at Devox UK talking to Maurice Naftalin. Maurice, hi.
Hi.
So you are with us to talk about Lambda expressions. So why were they added to Java SE?
I'm giving a talk this afternoon with a kind of humorous introduction where I suggest that the reason they're being added to Lambda to Java is because Java's actually just about the last mainstream language to have them, and we're getting a lot of stick from all the other the language advocates who are saying, you're so behind the curve. But in practice, they bring some huge advantages to a language. The two that I would pick out more than any others for Java, the two strongest motivations are that they're going to improve the readability and the maintainability of code a very great deal. So code that's written with lambdas tends to be very, very much more transparent and easy to understand and much closer to the developer's intention. So you're really writing at a higher level of abstraction. It's much easier to grasp what's going on. And the other principal driver is that it helps you to write in a style which is much more easily parallelized. We're now living in a world where multi-core architectures are already the order of the day, and we're going to get very, very many more cores on the chip, and we've got a big problem about working out how we're going to put them to use. So actually taking ordinary problems and, as far as possible, dividing them up and organizing them to run on multiple cores in parallel is going to be the really big challenge of the next decade or so. And it turns out that using lambdas actually lends itself to a style which makes it very much easier. Not so much for you to write code that can be easily parallelized, but for library writers to take your code and to parallelize it for you.
So lambdas have also an effect on the collections, Java collections. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's related really to what I was just saying. So the big difference that will happen to the collections libraries is that previously we've been stuck with, when we wanted a collection when we wanted to work with the collection, the only thing that we could pass into a collection method was essentially a reference to an object. So it was a value. If we wanted to have a collection do something to if we wanted to do something to all the members of a collection, we would have to ask the collection to give us each of its members in turn, and then we would do that thing to the element that we'd got, and then we would give it back to the collection again, or the collection would just keep it. So this is actually it's a very awkward way of coding. We've come to see that, and it means that essentially that we don't have the possibility of the library writers, as I just said, being able to do clever things because the client programmers, we are doing whatever needs to be done with each member of the collection in turn. So instead now, what we're now going to be able to do is something different. Instead of pulling the elements out of the collection and working with them, instead what we'll do is we'll pass a behavior into the collection, and we'll say to the collection, go off and do this to each one of your members in turn. So I've thought of a good parallel for this. If somebody said to you, supposing they wanted some letters mailing, and they said to you, here's a pile of envelopes, and what I want you to do is go to the post box, and I want you to sort them into alphabetical order, and then I want you to put them one by one into the post box, the mailbox. You would think that was kind of eccentric. You would think they were over-specifying the problem a bit. So what you would say to somebody is, here's the envelopes, go off and get them all into the mailbox. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what order you do it in. You can do them all at once, or you can do them in parallel, and that's going to be the difference, really, essentially, with the way that we program collections. We're just going to say to the collection, here's the thing I want you to do to the elements. I don't care how you do it, what order you do it in, whether you do it in parallel, and then the collections, the people who write the collections libraries, who are clever guys, they'll work out optimal ways of doing it.
So you're writing a book also about lambdas?
Yes, I'm trying to bring together some of these ideas. Writing a book is always an interesting experience. It's a challenge. This has grown out of the FAQ that I've been maintaining for the last few months, really. I'm really very much a latecomer to the party of lambdas, but it's very interesting. I have a bit of a background in functional programming, so it wasn't that hard to pick up, though. Turns out there's some kind of interesting complexities to the Java case. So the FAQ has been quite people have found that quite useful, and it looks like there aren't. As yet, there isn't an awful lot of guidance for programmers about how to use this new facility. So I'm going to be. Actually, I've been quite surprised to discover how few examples of working code there are out there. So I'm going to have an interesting job trying to develop some of them myself.
So you have a session this afternoon. Anything else you want to share with us that we're going to talk about?
Well, you were there is programming in Java is going to change. I think this is what I'd like to say. I think it's going to change for the better, but it's not going to be an entirely easy. It's not going to be an entirely easy change. So when people first of all see these the programs that are written using lambdas, they're in a style which is not very familiar for object-oriented programmers. It looks much more like a functional program. So we've got there are millions and millions of Java programmers out there who, in due course, are going to have to really learn a new way of doing things. But the opportunities and the payback for this is going to be enormous. There is a learning curve there, but the trade-off is going to be we're going to get very, very much better programs out of it, and we're going to get programs that will run efficiently eventually on multi-core hardware. And those two things are actually really essential to keep Java a live proposition.
Okay. Thank you for talking to us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.